There's a lot happening right now in AI, and if you don't know which tool to use, then this is exactly what this video is going to go over, because now there is OpenClaw, there is Claude Desktop with all like the unique features inside of it, like chat, co-work, and Claude Code, and then there are these other workflow automation tools like n8n, Zapier, Make, and it is quite overwhelming because every single week there is something massive coming out, or one company wiping out 1,000 other startups. And the key idea behind this video is going to be how to think about approaching the right tool for you, how to pick it, and really the philosophy, so you can pick something that is stable long term and not just be really sucked into the hype behind all the trends that are happening right now, and how to just really approach everything so you don't really ever get locked in, or how you can pretty much just use everything together so you can leverage AI and its capabilities and get the best of AI. All right, there's a lot of noise happening right now in tech Twitter, on news, everywhere. Maybe in the past 30 days or so, OpenClaw had this massive hype trend, you know what I mean? Everyone was talking about it in February, late January and stuff like that. And now, I don't want to say it died down or anything like that, but there's new things being shipped every single week, every single day, to a point where it's getting quite overwhelming for anyone trying to pick and choose the right thing, what to stick to long term, and not potentially just get wiped out by something that could just be replaced by something else. So in this video, like I said, I'm just going to pretty much just go over cutting through the noise of all these various different tools and how to kind of like think about them, when to use them, and if it really applies to you. And by the way, when I say n8n in this video, it doesn't necessarily mean n8n, but also the related businesses such as like Zapier, Make, and the related, you know what I mean? Where you can pretty much just like have a editor, drag and drop, add different workflows and stuff like that. So as I said, everyone is pretty much just hyping everything up. There's a lot of noise out there on social media. Everyone's saying, hey, go with this tool. You know what I mean? If there's a whole OpenClaw scene out there, everyone's saying you should use OpenClaw. Other people are just purely sticking with AI automation and n8n and how great it is. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's quite overwhelming. You know what I mean? So the way you want to think about it is that all of these tools, they pretty much have the same framework. You know what I mean? You can pretty much just add AI to it. It can get things done for you. It can work and apply logic based on different conditioning formatting, things like that. You can apply different APIs, tools, and things of that nature to make all these workflows really personalized and fit your personal needs or even business needs, right? So how should you choose, right? So in the most simplest way that I can explain it is that if you just want something that is very clear, it's always going to have very consistent sorts of outputs. And when I say consistent, I don't necessarily mean that, because you can also like apply like an AI brain or something like that to any of these workflows. But what I mean is just, if you need just like a simple pipeline from say the beginning of say a workflow or some sort of task that gets started to the end for a final output, say like an image generated, a post created, an email sent out or something like that, then probably like a tool or something similar like n8n is right for you. Whereas if say you want something that can pretty much have all the capabilities and the power of say what an AI assistant can do on say like a chat platform, but more than that, it can access your data, it can remember, have personal context, it can actually create these workflows for you. Maybe you can even plug it into other tools where you can create automations and workflows and grow over time with you, where it's like very modular, then OpenClaw is probably the right one for you. And the thing about OpenClaw, like I'll also get to that too, but it's, if you have access to the directory, especially on your own computer, or if there's some way you're accessing the files in say a virtual private server or some other machine, then these are all just files and markdown files at the end of the day. You can just literally copy and paste it from this open source agent into a future one. You know what I mean? Everything right now lives and breathes inside of these markdown files and stuff like that. So you can always just migrate over. So don't ever feel like if you choose OpenClaw and you may not like it in say 30 days or something like that, or it's just too expensive, then you can easily just copy and paste the files that you created and add it into another agent framework, or just like add the files as context so another agent or resource or whatever can grow with you. And then Claude, the only thing about Claude is while their team is shipping like crazy and there's so many things coming out, they are like probably the best AI provider platform right now, and they're coming out with things fast. Last year we had Claude Code, and pretty much the chat got insanely really good, right? And then this year we have the co-work, which is pretty much this sort of productivity platform where it can get tasks done, it can create skills with you, it can schedule tasks, things get done. So the only con about that is you don't really have access to the internal brain of what is happening inside of Claude, and you're not really too sure what's happening there. It's kind of like this black box and you're unsure. You have some controls in terms of what it can do, the conversation history, but you're not really too sure entirely of like what their sole file is, right? Or what their user context exactly is about you, you know what I mean? Or if there's anything else happening behind the scenes. Is this sort of like vendor lock-in, where once you become very integrated with Claude and you build all these processes, these connectors on top of the tools, then you pretty much kind of get locked in, and it's very difficult to move off the platform. Now, the thing about n8n is, like I said, it's this sort of like logic that runs in the background. It's very repetitive, predictable, especially too if there is no sort of like AI brain managing in terms of like the decision logic, the filtering and stuff like that. So it's very predictable, you know what I mean? So you can create simple flows where you have agents doing things, you can choose the model. It can pretty much access these various different like capabilities, like say a calendar or something like that. You can maybe let it reference, say, a email template or something, and then it sends it either for, say, an approval, or if you already just let it send it out automatically, it can send out emails and manage emails on behalf of you. I remember over the summer, I pretty much had my own agent managing customer support for my mobile app at the time. And the way the structure there worked was there were different tiers of tags. I would tag every single email that would come into my inbox based on a tag system where I let the AI tag it initially. So as soon as the email comes in, a tag is attached to the email. Once the email gets passed through the tagging system, the AI pretty much filters through it. So there would be one workflow where it tells the AI, okay, if it's just basic customer support, send out an automated email, don't even tell me anything. If it's something where it has to do with marketing, say maybe like a response from a creator, then notify me in Discord. If say it's something critical where it requires my attention, personally have to respond, or someone else on the team has to respond, then it also notifies me and it drafts, say, a template in terms of like how we should approach this or how we should respond to it, you know what I mean? Or even does its own research. So you kind of have like this sort of deterministic logic, I guess you can say, that in the beginning, you set up the workflow, you know exactly like the components and the pieces, and it's very good to have on the screen, especially if you're a very visual person. You can kind of see like everything right then and there for your workflows and how it's working. And the thing about this is like if you're using what's called n8n, and you're just simply copying and pasting this from say one workflow to another, it's very easy to like migrate these files and work in say like other tasks or automations that you have, and then just kind of like build and expand from there. And these are always like very modular. You can easily switch them in and out. You're not necessarily prompting and going back and forth with a bot. It's pretty much there's a bunch of templates online. A lot of people have different school communities. A lot of people have different free resources online. So a lot of stuff is open source online, and you can just drop it into your own workspace on whatever you're using. Or you even have some of these AI builders pretty much build out the automation for you, and then boom, you're rolling. You know what I mean? Now there's like a lot of AI chat platforms integrated into like these top tier platforms, Zapier and stuff like that, where it just builds out the whole entire automation for you, and they're just trying to make it as easy as possible. Honestly, it's not too hard to learn, but still, nonetheless, it is what it is, and it definitely is. There's a lot of value in it. Now, the thing about OpenClaw is you want to think of it as if it's now this sort of executive assistant, this personal assistant, right? People used to hire, you know, in the classical days, people used to hire their own executive EAs, right? Their executive assistant or chief of staff, whatever. But now you can think of OpenClaw as a first of its kind chief of staff, where it actually can remember stuff about you. It becomes smarter with you. It creates its own memory files every single day on a daily basis about what you're doing. It's a very modular framework where inside of OpenClaw, it's pretty much just file systems and directories where it's of different skills, tools, connectors, capabilities you're giving it access to, whether it's accessing a Trello board to manage your tasks, whether it's managing your calendar or letting people know, hey, like I have availability this time. Can I book a time with you at this time? If it's managing your calendar and emails. So it's pretty much this autonomous agent that can pretty much do the same stuff that say n8n is doing, but you can actually chat with it as if it's say ChatGPT or Claude or some other sort of language model chat interface, as if you're having a conversation, plus it's doing work for you. I think the biggest thing where people thought it was like this autonomous agent, where what really is happening there is that it's really just cron jobs and scheduled tasks on a very frequent basis, where say it's backing itself up to GitHub every 10 minutes, or say it is performing tasks for you every hour based on like say criteria or goals you set for it, and it's just like working for you, you know what I mean? That's kind of where it feels really autonomous, is when you give it scheduled tasks and it's actually doing work for you and getting things done, versus you just prompting it back and forth. I think the biggest mistake that people make when you're using OpenClaw is that people think that it's just a back and forth platform like some other chat platform, but that's the complete wrong way to use it. And the way you want to use it is actually by setting its own goals, and you want to pretty much let it perform and what's it called, create tasks for you. So as you can see here, I know it's kind of hard to see it, but yeah, damn it. Let me see if I could pull up actually the original files. Give me 1 second. All right, so I pulled up the files that was there. I didn't realize it was going to be quite hard to see on the slideshow, so my bad about that. But basically what this is just, like this is like the OpenClaw dashboard inside, like when you open it on the browser. And here we just have like various different skills I equipped the agent with, what it can do. It can access my Accountly, it can access the browser, it can access my email marketing tool, which I'm using Brevo. It can access my email inbox for the agent, which I gave it, which is called Agent Mail. It has a skill to create other agents, it has a skill to manage my CRM and stuff like that. So there are all these kinds of tools you can equip your agent with. And this is where the power is, you know what I mean? So like now a lot of these other companies, say like even Claude, they recently just released a big update with their skills where now you can equip Claude with skills and they can execute tasks in a very specific way where the output is very consistent to what you're looking for, so you don't have to constantly reprompt it to do things. And that's where, like, you know, these skills come in handy, right? And as you can see here, this is pretty much my Obsidian, kind of like of like the root directory of like how kind of everything looks like. And there's a lot more that goes on here, right? But I have a few agents here that can do various different things, such as like research things and happenings inside tech, research things about YouTube, whether it's like my personal channel or things happening on the platform. There's this Posters integration I did where now it can cross post and post autonomously for me on social media. And there is newsletter agent where it understands and reads my newsletter. By the way, if you're not signed up to my newsletter, quick plug here, I write about AI, latest happenings, freebies. I give away freebies, templates, things like that inside my newsletter. So you can sign up for that on my website. So check that out. But that's pretty much what the newsletter agent will do, is pretty much studies my own writing content and then pretty much suggests me different ideas, things to talk about, and maybe even drafts me up a concept so I have something to work off of. And then pretty much I can just modify it myself. You know what I mean? I don't feel fully comfortable for this thing to just send out the emails fully autonomously for me yet, but like if I have something to start off with, it gives me a good base to jump off of. And there's an email agent where pretty much it can reach out to email, or what's called reach out to people, follow up with people. I have a lead agent, which can pretty much prospect people and find people basically for my criteria for a service that I'm selling right now. And the thing is, like, these agents don't just, you know, autonomously spawn. You know, I mean, you have to actually set them cron jobs inside here in a tab, set them various different jobs and give them a prompt and specify the exact sort of, what's it called, time and task that they are looking to do, and specify the exact agent. So I would just reference the agent from my OpenClaw on what would be scheduled at what time, which agent, and what exactly they have to do. So you have to give them a prompt, right? So this is the whole thing behind OpenClaw. And what I really love about OpenClaw is that it's open source, just like Obsidian. Obsidian blew the hell up out of nowhere. And I think the reason why I love them is because Obsidian has been open source. I can do anything with my files. It lives on my machine. It's not basically just gate kept or vendor locked in like Notion. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of that. Like Notion is cool, but I'm not really a fan of the fact that I have to get gate kept. Whereas for Obsidian, I have access to the files, and the same thing kind of here with agents and stuff like that. I think there is a lot of power when you have access to your own agent files or what it's doing. You can kind of see what's on the inside, and then you can do anything with it. You know what I mean? So there's always gonna be new frameworks and stuff like that thinking, and I'm just trying to think long term, 5-10 years out. And based on like whatever's going to be out there, like I can just literally migrate everything I've done inside OpenClaw into the future agent that I'm going to be working with. And the thing is, like, these agents, they're going to be extremely intelligent and knowledgeable about future topics, concepts, and stuff like that. So if you have access to all your data and you can just easily migrate somewhere else, that's going to be pretty powerful versus just being locked into a specific vendor. So pretty much said here, you have more self-control, but the only downside is that you're pretty much you're being forced to create your own setup, whether you're hosting it locally or you're hosting it on a virtual private server. So there is a bit of a front-end learning curve in terms of how to use it, especially if you're not technical. It could be a pain in the ass, but there is a bit of a upfront learning curve and maybe even an investment if you're running it on your own machine. But nonetheless, assuming things become cheaper, if assuming, say, we're going to be running local models on our machines or servers or whatever, then overall it's going to be very cheap to, at some point, run very intelligent models on your setup, right? So that's that. And then Claude Desktop, right? So I have a screenshot here of Claude Desktop, and this is pretty much like how it looks like. That you have like the various different feature tabs you can go into. So whether it's chat, code. And the thing is, some people are just really confused in terms of like, how the hell do I actually use this thing? You know what I mean? Like, how do I know which one to use? You want to use chat when you need a thinking companion, okay? That's pretty much what chat is. Doesn't mean you can't code in it. Doesn't mean you can't get tasks done. Doesn't mean it can't do other things for you. You can still do it there. But there are these other tabs here specifically designed for those other reasons people are using the other tabs for. So if you're using chat, use it to think with people. If you're using co-work, use it to get things done, because I mean, I'm not showing it here inside the what's called the slideshow. I do have some sensitive tabs open, so I don't want to reveal that, but so on the tab here, if you press it, you can add skills, you can add connectors, which are pretty much like plugins, right? You can connect it to your Vercel, you can connect it to your calendar, you can pretty much get it to ship code for you, you can get it to push code for you, you can get it to generate images with, say, a replicate API or something like that. You can create scheduled tasks, or say every single day at this time, give me a report of things that are happening right now in XYZ. So that's what like co-work is designed to do. It can pretty much access machines and files on your directory, get things done. And then the last thing with code, Claude Code here, which everyone pretty much knows about, is Claude Code is pretty much like your AI technical co-founder. It's this cracked co-founder, can pretty much do anything. It can code projects up from just straight prompting with English, anything from mobile apps, web apps, extensions, anything you can literally think of that has to do with code. You can pretty much just code it. You don't have to be very technical, especially if you're using a super powerful model like Opus. That thing will cook you up something fire. But you don't have to use Opus all the time. Use Sonnet. Same thing for Cowork, because I noticed when I've been running Cowork and Claude Code, they do eat up a lot of tokens, especially too if you have a lot of context and what you're providing it, especially if it's accessing something that has a lot of data. It's going to eat up a lot of context, and the outputs are going to cost you a lot, and you're going to hit your rate limits very, very fast, especially with Cowork from my recent experience with it. So that's what's called Claude Desktop. I've been using it more and more, and I kind of mentioned here exactly like how to think of using each of these. And the thing is, like, the only downside about Claude Desktop app itself is that, well, first off, the biggest pro is that you're accessing probably the top frontier AI model right now that exists. And that's why I love Claude. I use them every single day. They're amazing. I pay for them, I vouch for them. But the only trade-off is that it is very expensive to run it. And the thing is, you'll hit your rate limits quite fast, and you are pretty much getting vendor locked into the platform. So if, say, you want to build like a pretty big infrastructure around your business, your operations, or whatever you're doing with it, you don't really have access, unlike OpenClaw or, say, n8n, to all your data, all your workflows, everything that is happening there, unless OpenClaw is directly working with other tools and you can see and do anything with your data there. Whereas if, say, you're working with like the Claude platform itself, it's doing tasks on behalf of you. It's maybe doing something within its own memory structure, or somehow like behind the scenes doing other things you don't know about that you don't have access to, which is kind of a con for me. It's a downside. I wish I had access to it, but nonetheless, I mean, everything has a trade-off in itself. And the beautiful thing about Claude Code is that it's extremely easy to access, to use. If you're a complete noob to AI and you don't know what the heck you're doing, it's super easy to use, and it's definitely like one of those tools where if you're just getting started with like AI, this is probably one of the best tools you can probably pick. And let's see what I got here. And the thing is, like, whichever tool you're picking and choosing, it's not like I'm isolated and everything is siloed to one thing. I pretty much use everything because I like to feel it out. And the only way you're going to figure out what makes the most sense for your use case scenario or whatever is if you actually use any of these tools. That's the way I've been doing it. I've realized that OpenClaw makes sense for me for very specific workflows, things I'm trying to get automated and like really get good with the AI agents, especially since it's open source. I have access to all the data, so I want to see like what can I really push this thing with. Whereas for Claude, I use it for like really high tier intelligence. So I need something coded really good and really well. Let's use Claude Code. I need a task performed a very specific way. Let's use Claude Cowork. I need to think and have a superpower thinking companion. Let's use Claude Chat. You see what I mean? And then if I were to run like a AI automation agency, or maybe set up some sort of very specific workflows for someone, I mean, you can pretty much do it with both OpenClaw or n8n, but probably n8n is the route for that, because you can pretty much have these workflows on what's called like a dashboard. You can copy and paste it over to people. You can copy and paste it between your own organizations. You can have these various simple workflows set up, especially if you like to be more hands-on with it, and then just pretty much use these tools. Then n8n is probably the route for you. But I'm not saying like one is better or the other. Every single one of these has its own pros and cons. So it's really just about touching and feeling each of these to see what makes the most sense for you, and then going with that. So I kind of pretty much already ran through the difference in terms of like what is what, and that's pretty much what this is here. And the real question you have to be asking here is what makes the most sense for you right now? Are you looking for like a personal assistant that can pretty much do everything, right? Then probably something like OpenClaw is right for you, where it can pretty much create its own automations. You can give it access to various different tools. You can also talk with it and even asking about the things it's doing. That's pretty much what OpenClaw can do. Whereas if say you want super high crazy intelligence, and by the way, you can hook up OpenClaw to any of these AI models, right? When I'm speaking of OpenClaw, I'm also referencing to the fact that I'm using a lower model to run it, because this thing burns millions of tokens, right? So if you don't really have the budget to run this thing on the best possible AI model, then you're probably using a lesser tier model. So that's what I mean. But if you're looking for something that gives you high performance, guarantees really good efficiency for the time and the prompts that you're feeding it, then probably Claude is the way to go, because their team is always shipping things, making things really, really good. And you don't know where the state of AI is going to be in the next like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, right? So they're really on top of it. They're shipping things, and they're like, you can pretty much zero shot prompts and it could be pretty much like 95% perfect or even 100%. They're extremely good in terms of like the prompts and outputs of the expectations. Now with like the higher tier models, they just kind of anticipate exactly what you're looking for, and you can just zero shot almost anything. I remember when I fed it my bookkeeping sheet from my bookkeeper, I wanted to do my books. I gave this thing the original template. I gave it some transaction data. I actually made a video previously about like the subject here, but anyway, I gave it my data, and then pretty much from there, it just zero shotted my transactions for February, right? So it was like perfect. It's insane, you know what I mean? And it also fixed some bugs that my previous bookkeeper did, which they didn't spot it. But the way overall you want to think about it is kind of like what I echoed earlier and just mentioned, is that you want to have a sort of like 5-10 year mindset in terms of projecting into the future, how you kind of see yourself using these tools, what kind of systems you're building on these platforms, and how can you apply this to your whole entire approach in life. Because the big thing here for me, at least, was very valuable is the data, and that it's human generated real data from your own personal problems, things that are happening in your life, and what do you do with this data? Because if these platforms, they're locking into the if they're locking you into the platform and you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, what kind of data or what they're doing with your data, then it's very hard to migrate off these platforms, especially if one of these platforms, they get sunk or they just run out of capital or whatever, then you're kind of screwed, you know what I mean? Especially if it's not open source. Whereas if, say, you have something that you can easily copy and paste into a specific like JSON file, you can copy and paste it and save it somewhere on in a specific coding project, or you can just literally just copy the whole entire directory of, say, where OpenClaw is running. If you're running OpenClaw, then you have this file for your own personal context in the future. And this is why I kind of like love Obsidian, because like when before, you know, the whole thing with AI, I have all access to my notes and stuff like that. I can do anything with it. It's just simply markdown format. You know what I mean? So the same thing applies here for the agents. If assuming they're, you know, text in the future is going to be this huge thing, you know what I mean? And or however data is being stored and saved in the future, as long as you have access to the data and you can provide another AI access to your data, or whatever provider exists in the future, your data, then it just pretty much gives it a massive head start. Because pretty much the most important thing here is context. You want to give it context, you want to give it access to various different tools, and you pretty much want it to understand right away, like, what it's got to do, what its expectations are, and then how it should perform certain tasks. You know what I mean? So the more data you have, especially if you have like logs, history, or anything like that, you can just pretty much jumpstart these AIs. And that's pretty much the video. I'm just going to wrap it up here. That's pretty much how I would think about choosing any tool from like these AI automation platforms like Zapier, Make, or n8n. This is how I would go about approaching whether or not Claude Code makes sense for me, or Claude Desktop, whatever, with all their features from Cowork, Chat, Claude Code, and then how I would approach maybe, say, using something like OpenClaw. You know what I mean? The beautiful thing about OpenClaw, what I like, is that like it's pretty much named OpenClaw. You have access, you can see pretty much everything going on inside of it, as I kind of just explained before. But that'll be all for the video. As I said earlier in the video, if you're interested in getting the latest news and happenings and tips and little tricks about AI, then sign up for my newsletter. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.